taste like freedom? Where's your boy at? Is he back there? Your son, did he go back?
Yeah.
Oh, this was just for him. Liberty. Okay, that was terrible. So we're going to talk about freedom this morning. On a serious note, we're going to talk about freedom. We're going to talk about being caged. Anybody in here ever been caged? I figured I could ask that here at Crossroads, and there'd be a lot of us that have been caged. I've been caged myself. So, how many of you guys like being caged? Yeah, being caged isn't any fun. So, but we don't want to be in a cage of addiction. We don't want to be in a cage of anxiety. We don't want to be in a cage of depression. We don't want to be in a cage of poverty. We don't want to be in a cage of a bad relationship, right? We don't want to be caged. We want to do what we want when we want to do it. Yeah. Right? Nobody wants to be in a cage. I remember when I first got saved, I thought, before I started coming to church, I'd been caged in a lot of those things that I just mentioned, and I didn't want to go from that cage to another cage. Right? I didn't want to go to church because it looked like a cage to me, a prettier cage, but it still looked like a cage. I wasn't down for another cage. I wanted to be free. Does anybody else ever feel that way about church? Just me? It looked like, to me, from the outside looking in, it looked like a bunch of rules. It looked like a bunch of stuff that I can't do anymore. It just looked like the opposite of freedom from the outside looking in. And I wanted to be free. I wanted to do what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it. The thing about Jesus is He'll set you free, and He will let you go do whatever you want, whenever you want to do it. And I did not know that. But also, Jesus will change your want to. He's so good to me that the things that I used to want to do slowly change into what He wants me to do. And I find myself wanting to do those things. Not because I have to, not because it's a law, not because it's a rule, not because I'm in a cage and the owner who rattles my cage and says this is what you'll do and that's what you have to do. It's totally different with Jesus. He sets you free to do whatever you want to do, and then you're so overwhelmed that He's the first thing in your life, in my life, that I had experienced that completely set you free to do whatever you want. And I was so amazed by that I was like, I'll do whatever you want. I want you. Isn't that awesome how that works? So this is not what I thought it would be. It's not a pretty cage. There's no cage. We're going to talk about a guy in a cage this morning. Turn over to Matthew chapter 27. We'll start in verse 11. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said, "You have said so." But when he was accused by the chief priests and elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate said to him, "Do you not hear how many things they testify against you?" But he gave him no answer, not even a single charge, so that the governor was greatly amazed. Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to release for the crowd any one prisoner whom they wanted. And they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. That's like one of those Mufasa names. Barabbas. So when they had gathered, Pilate said to them, "Who do you want me to release for you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Christ?" For he knew that it was out of envy that they had delivered him up. Besides, while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent word for him, "Have nothing to do with that religious man, for I have suffered much because of him today in a dream." Now the chief priests and elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas, and destroy Jesus. You always think that if you're one of the people standing there in the crowd, and they put up a man named Barabbas, and they put up Jesus who healed, who saved, who raised the dead, that you would be yelling for them to release Jesus. Don't you always think that when you read the story? I would yell Jesus. But here's the thing, is like the religious leaders of the time are in the crowd, and they are convincing everyone to yell for Barabbas. So if you're on a crowd full of people, they're going to execute one guy, and you don't know too much about either guy, and let's say myself, Greg Gilberto, Jason Jordan, Spain from First Baptist, and we're all out there saying, ask for Barabbas. That's the right thing to do. Ask for Barabbas, guys. You see how that would change things if all your pastors were out there saying, this guy needs to die. We need Barabbas to be released. So it's hard to say what you would have done if you would have been there, if all your leaders were telling you to do something else. All the people that you trusted, that you believed to be men of God. Now the chief priests and elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor again said to them, which of the two do you want me to release? And they said, Barabbas. Pilate said to them, then what shall I do with Jesus, who is called the Christ? And they said, let him be crucified. And he said, why? What evil has he done? But they shouted all the more, let him be crucified. So when Pilate saw that he was gaining nothing, but rather that a riot was beginning, he took water and washed his hands before the crowd, saying, I am innocent of this man's blood. See to it yourselves. And all the people answered, his blood be on us and our children. It's a good thing it is, too. Amen. Then he released for them Barabbas, and having scored Jesus, delivered him to be crucified. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 1. For since the law has brought a shadow of good things to come, instead of the true form of these realities, it can never, by the same sacrifices that are continually offered every year, make perfect those who draw near. Otherwise, they would not have ceased to be offered, since the worshippers, having once been cleansed, would no longer have any consciousness of sins. But in these sacrifices there is a reminder of sins every year, for it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. First part of that, for since the law has but a shadow of the good things to come. The old covenant is a shadow of the new covenant. It's a shadow of the good things to come. Okay? So I can take a lot of stuff out of this Old Testament and show you that what a shadow is connected to the real thing. So if you see a shadow, you can follow that to the real deal. Does that make sense? So I can go back here, look in the Old Testament, and there's lots of shadows, and if I follow that shadow, it'll always lead me to Jesus. I think that's awesome. I think that's fun. This part right here, by the same sacrifices that are continually offered every year, make perfect those who draw near. Otherwise, they would not have ceased to be offered, since the worshippers, having once been cleansed, would no longer have any consciousness of sins. But in these sacrifices there is a reminder of sins every year. Every year you got to sacrifice for the people. Every single year. And so it just pushes the sins off until the next year, and you just keep killing the lambs or the goats or the bulls or whatever it is. And you got to keep doing it because it is impossible for the blood of bulls and goats to take away sins. So all this sacrificing of the animals is a shadow of the real thing. And if I follow that shadow of these bulls and goats and lambs being sacrificed, it leads me to Jesus. who is the one for all sacrifice. So they would sin during that year, they would make a sacrifice, all that's covered. Next year they sin again, you got to sacrifice again. But with Jesus, it's one and done. One sacrifice for all time. So these goats and bulls did not cover any of your future sins. They only covered your past sins. And so every year you had to have another sacrifice. I know this isn't a popular thing to say in church, but Jesus covered all your sin. Past, present, future. He truly sets you free. You guys okay? Okay, so, just like what Anthony preached last Sunday, I have no more consciousness of sin. That means I don't focus on my sin. I don't, it's not a matter of timing where I have to, I sin and then I accidentally crash into something, leave it here, and I sinned right before I hit that tree or whatever, and then I go to hell because I didn't confess that sin. Guys, that is not how it works. It's not a matter of timing. It's a matter of your sacrifice. Your perfect sacrifice once for all time. So if you mess up, there's nothing wrong with saying, Lord, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. But I don't say I'm sorry because I'm asking for forgiveness for sin, because I am forgiven for sin. Already. It's already been paid for. It's a done deal. And so I don't let the devil beat me up about that sin, because when God looks at me, he sees Jesus, he sees perfection, he doesn't see any sin, no mistake. He sees me as if I've never messed up. And if that's how God sees me, then that's the truth. And I will not let the devil beat me up about anything like that. So I can say to God, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a child of God, man. I'm better than that. I'm going to do better than that next time. And I keep moving forward. But I don't worry about that sin causing me to go to hell, because I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. Just like Anthony was saying, you don't go to hell because of sin. You go to hell because you don't believe. And I believe. I'm going to heaven. When I get to heaven, we've said this before, why should I let you in? Because Jesus paid the way. Paid for all my sin. I'm coming in perfect because of him. Not because of anything I done, but because of what he did. That's why I'm getting in. And that's the only way any of us are getting in. In Leviticus 16, there's a description of the Day of Atonement, which is and it's a shadow of the Day of Atonement. Because we're leading up to the true Day of Atonement where Jesus died on the cross for your sin. But God told Aaron that he had to, as the high priest, he had to sacrifice a bull for himself. Because he had to get all his sins taken care of before he could take care of anybody else's. So he would kill a bull first and sprinkle blood and all the things that God told him to do. And then he would have 2 goats. Check this out, Leviticus 16, probably something you never heard. 2 goats. 1 goat would be killed, and 1 goat would be set free. And they cast lots to see which goat was the sacrifice for the people and which goat got set free. And that is a shadow of what happened here with Barabbas. We pronounce his name wrong. Did you know his name is Bar-Abbas, not Barabbas? You know what Bar-Abbas means? So, in Hebrew, you read from right to left, it means the Father's Son. Abbas is father. Bar means son, son of the Father. That's what Barabbas means. So you've got Two goats. The true son of the Father and Barabbas. One is going to die for your sin, and one is going to be set free. It's a shadow. God doesn't change. God doesn't change. So, turn over to Matthew chapter 16. You guys are super quiet, but that goat thing was awesome. Okay. Chapter 16, verse 13. Now when Jesus came into the district of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" And they said, "Some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, others say Jeremiah or one of the prophets." And he said to them, "But who do you say that I am?" Simon Peter replied, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Christ, Barabbas. And Jesus answered him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah. For flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven." So Bar-Jonah means Simon, son of Jonas. And then you know that lots of places do that. So if you hear the name MacDonald, that just means son of Donald. If you hear the name Osama bin Laden, bin is son of, so it's Osama, son of Laden. McLovin, son of Lovin. All of us in here, sons and daughters of Lovin. Amen. So you got two goats. Both are called son of the Father. Both are accused of starting an insurrection, starting a rebellion. One will be killed, one will be set free. And they cast lots, or they have like a battle of the bands thing. You want Jesus or you want Barabbas? Jesus? Barabbas. Hey. There was a preacher. He was walking down the sidewalk one day and he saw a little boy, and he had a bird cage, and he had 3 field birds in there, just old blackbirds. And the boy was licking the cage. The preacher was like, "Hey, son, what are you going to do with those birds?" He said, "I'm going to get home, I'm going to poke them with sticks, and I'm going to pull out their feathers, and we're going to have lots of fun. And I'm going to make them fight each other. It's going to be awesome." He's like, "Well, what are you going to do when you get done with them?" He said, "Well, I got a couple cats. They love birds. I'm just going to let my cats eat those birds." He's like, "Okay. What do you want? What do you want for the birds? How much?" "Oh, mister, you don't want these birds. These are just old blackbirds. They're not worth anything. They're not even pretty. They're good for nothing. And they're not that hard to catch. You can go right in there and catch as many as you want. How much do you want for them?" He sized the preacher up, saw his golf shirt and his fresh J's, and said, $300. Preacher paid the price, took the bird cage, walked a little further up the sidewalk. He opened the door, tapped the cage, and let the birds go free. Jesus and Satan having a conversation. Jesus walking up. Satan just leaving the Garden of Gethsemane. He said, "I got them now. I've caught them all in one cage. Now we're going to have some real fun. We're going to teach them how to fight. We're going to teach them how to hate. We're going to teach them to make bombs and blow each other up, kill each other. We're going to have lots of fun." Jesus is like, "What are you going to do with them after that?" "Oh, there's not going to be nothing left after that." Well, how much do you want for them? Oh, you don't want these people? There's nothing pretty about these people. There's nothing good about these people. They'll hate you. They'll cuss you. They'll spit on you. They might even kill you. And trust me, they won't even acknowledge your existence. How much? Satan sizes up Jesus and says, all your tears, all your blood, your life for their life. Jesus takes the cage, pays the price, and opens the door. Jesus sets you free, for real. Jesus blows the door off that cage. He blows the door off the prison. You can choose to walk back in there if you want to. But no one can put that door back on there. Because who the Son sets free is free indeed. You can always choose to come back out. Jesus will always make a way. The door will never be on there again. This series on freedom, this is what I'm wanting you to get out of this, is that Jesus made a way for you never to be in bondage again. And whether you follow him or not, whether you become a Christian or not, there's a way. You can stay in the cage forever, but I'm telling you, the cage no longer has a door on it. You can leave anytime you want, because he paid it all for you to be set free. He gave it all. You have a new owner. The guy who used to own you, hold you with sticks, pull out your feathers, and make you fight each other. This new owner, Jesus, set you free.